So we call it mainstreaming, right? Because what you want is you want gender to be considered in every single thing that you do. And my way of talking about that is you have to look at the development problem through the lens of 100% of the population, not 50% of the population. Sometimes that means thinking about things from a male perspective that is counterintuitive. And other times it means the reverse. And it's not easy to do. Because when you work for one of these institutions, there's a lot you have to do in the course of going about your day-to-day work on a project. But it's our job to make sure that we move along the spectrum of getting this truly mainstreamed. And I would tell you honestly, we're partway there. We're not all the way there. I happen to today have come from a meeting that reviewed the results of our Gender Action Plan 2010 to 2013. And one of the big takeaways is that we've gotten part of the way in mainstreaming, but not all the way, because people have to get better, and we have to help people get better at really thinking about the development problem in a holistic way. USAID created something called Gender 101. They had between 400 and 600 people take that online course in February. So training is a big part of things. If people don't know how to apply the logic, then you miss opportunities. And there are opportunities everywhere, whether that is within a project. So for example, some of the best paying jobs are driving heavy equipment, earth movers and the like. You go anywhere and you'll see that 99% of the people sitting in the driver's cab are men. So how could we use our projects to change that? Well, if we design up front that a part of our procurement is going to be to advantage companies that either train and or hire companies that have women driving those earth movers, then we can do it. And that's part of the thinking. So you have to think about everything that you do as a vehicle to advance not only the building of the road or the dam or the education program, but as a vehicle for advancing greater equality in society. I was in a project in Bolivia, and one of the things we were trying to do was to create non-traditional jobs for women. So I went, and it was a water project, and they're digging the ditches, I guess you'd call them, for all the big pipes. More than 50% of the people working on that were women. So the funny part of that story is that the guy who is the head of the construction company that had won that bid and was walking around with me, and I said, so I noticed that you've got a workforce with women, a lot of them. He said, yes, and you know, the fascinating thing is they actually show up on Monday morning and they're not drunk. And I said, well, you know, I've also noticed that all these earth movers are being driven by men. And I was recently at a gold mine, and they had women driving the biggest equipment I've ever seen in my entire life. And they told me that the women show up on Monday morning, and they're not drunk, and they get into fewer accidents, and their insurance premiums have gone down dramatically. So he looks at his aide, and he said, write that down. So, you know, one little step can lead to another big step. We did a rural road project in Peru. And in that case, the issue was making sure that the women in the communities were a part of the decision making as to where the roads went. So initially, before we showed up, the men were making those decisions. It will not be a surprise that they were not focused on rural roads that made it easier for women to go from here to get water. But when the governance structure changed and women had to be a part of the decision-making process, the choice of roads changed completely. And the roads changed women's lives.